EV charging infrastructure is rubbish and far too expensive. If that's what you believe, then you're half right. I, like many others, don't actually drive very much. I work from home, my wife works from home. But even if we didn't, the UK average commute daily is about 20 miles. It's not a massive amount. If you can charge at home, and the majority can, you really don't have to rely on public charging infrastructure very much. But what about everyone that can't charge at home? What if you do rely on public charging infrastructure? Or what if you can charge at home, but you actually want to use your EV like a normal car and go on long distances, and maybe then you do need to charge en route? With the average range of an EV now at about 300 miles, many EVs actually are way more than that, it's actually pretty rare that you're going to need to charge when you're out and about, but it's obviously going to happen. So it's important to know what it's like. Is it reliable? Is it improving? Do you have to queue? Does it cost a lot? Every year, wherever I go, if I'm charging somewhere, then I tend to film it, whether I use it in a video at that point or not. That means at the end of every year, I've got a hard drive absolutely full of footage that I never use. So this video is just an excuse to use some of that footage and to tell you what the infrastructure has been like for me. This video is sponsored by eVision Electric Vehicles, the UK's first and largest all-electric vehicle hire company. Okay, so just to say, this is just the UK. I'm not going to talk about Europe. We did drive to the Netherlands in a Renault Scenic, and we drove down to Italy in a Volkswagen ID7, so that all worked really well. So watch my videos of those if you haven't already. Firstly, if you end up watching this video and liking it, then please press subscribe and the bell icon to be notified of other videos. Okay, should we dive straight in? We're going to start with the Tesla Model 3. Tesla gave me a Model 3 for a week. This was the Model 3 that doesn't have the indicating stalks. The Tesla Model 3 was by far the best EV, I think, that I tested throughout the year. The worst car, there's a hot take for you. It's the worst car, but the best EV. Why was it the worst car? Just because of the stalks, or the lack of stalks, which drove me absolutely crazy. Most of the time, it's brilliant, it's fine, who cares? You just press buttons to indicate. But when you're on a roundabout, and you're coming off a roundabout, then you can end up with the buttons upside down. And then it's just, I hated it. I absolutely hated that stupid system. Anyway, Tesla have seen the light and they've put the stalks back, thankfully. So the first charging stop was the glamour of Newport Pagnell Services North. I was going up to see my friend Nick Ramo, went up to say hello to him, but also to film a little video about chargers. So yes, it was two geeks in a garage talking about chargers. Nick here has a whole load of chargers. Some people collect stamps or comic books. Nick seems to collect chargers. It's easy as always with a Tesla. If you haven't driven a Tesla before, I just always recommend that everyone who's interested in EVs should actually drive a Tesla at least once, just to see how the other half live, because it's so easy. Tell it where you want to go and it tells you where to charge, and it tells you how long that you have to charge there for. It tells you if it's busy. I think it tells you if there are people waiting even. And it's just, you've got all this infrastructure all over Europe, well, all over the world. You've got this infrastructure that Tesla have built, they've put in, and it's so easy. There are loads of stalls everywhere. And yeah, it's an absolute dream, really. And frankly, nothing else comes close still. Now, a lot of the Tesla superchargers are open to other EVs as well. But obviously, if you do have a Tesla, then you've got all of them open to you. And Newport Pagnell is one of the ones that is only available for proper Teslas. So anyway, I stopped there, went in, got a sandwich, I think, came back, and I had enough to start my journey again. And that's the thing, it tells you how long you need to be there, and it's so easy. Now, because this was a Tesla from Tesla, it was actually free charging, so I don't know how much it cost. I just know it was easy. Even if I was paying for it, it's all linked up to your Tesla account, and you just plug the Tesla in. You don't have to wave any payment cards or any of that. You plug in, you walk off. The app tells you when it's charged up, and then you walk back to the car, and then you drive off on your way. So on the way back, I also stopped at Newport Pagnell South this time. This wasn't as fun as the way up, because the superchargers were all kind of tucked away in a kind of pretty awkward spot. It's so tight, I had to do a 10-point turn to get in there. It wasn't great. And because it was so busy, and these are old Tesla superchargers, they share the power. So I think each pair is 150 kilowatts. So if you've got someone charging next to you, then you're both limited to 75. So that's all I got in terms of charging speed. It's a bit like urinals. Any men watching this will know what I mean. If you've got loads of urinals and there's someone there standing at one, you don't stand next to them, do you? You don't use the cubicle next to them. You want to give a little bit of a gap. And that's the same thing. That's the same thing with Tesla superchargers, these old ones anyway, where they share the power. Just think of urinals. I didn't have to use the Tesla superchargers, by the way, because there are loads of apple green chargers just next to it. So that's all fine. Loads of infrastructure there. That's great. Okay, next up, we've got on the 22nd of January, I was at IONITY at Cobham. Cobham is my second home, really, when it comes to charging. There are loads of chargers there. There are a couple from Gridserve, loads of IONITY chargers, and I find myself going there quite a lot. Used to be that there were only what was it, 6? Might have been 6, might have been 8 IONITY chargers. Now there are loads and loads of them. So anyway, I stopped there in the Kia Niro. Now, this didn't actually work first time, and it's because I had this kind of weird error that you get if the plug is not seated properly in the socket. Then sometimes you can get something called a handshake error or a communication error where the charger talks to the car and they can't quite talk properly. So you've got to kind of force the plug in a little bit. And I think this was just because it was a relatively new charger and is a bit stiff. And I've only ever had it happen with Kias, actually. The Kia EV9 happened with that once at IONITY. So it's a weird thing, but I just held the plug in a little bit and then it worked fine. Now I know about this. It's happened a couple of times before, so I know to expect it. Other than that, it worked fine. Next up, Tesla Bluewater. Now I was there meeting up with my friend Jonathan Porterfield. He kind of migrates to Spain for winter and then goes back up to Orkney. And so I met him there and we did a little video about used EVs, which was fun. So watch that if you haven't seen that already. And the Tesla app was fine. It was 51 pence per kilowatt hour, which is relatively cheap. And it was all good. They were a little bit of a pig to find these chargers, I seem to remember, because they've got 2 locations inside this car park and it wasn't really obvious where you had to go. So they could do with some signage. Now on the 12th of March, I was driving the Hyundai Ioniq 6. Weird looking car that is, but lovely. Lovely to drive. Apparently quite efficient, although I didn't find it that efficient when I was driving it. But okay, so I was coming back from Bicester in the Hyundai Ioniq 6. It told me where it wanted me to charge, but I ignored it. So it told me to go to this easy charge. I ignored that. It told me BP Pulse. Well, I'm not going to BP Pulse and giving them any of my money. And then it told me Gridserve. But I don't want to use Gridserve because I've got the Octopus Electroverse card and Gridserve don't support that. And I just want to use that card because I've got credit on there. So I didn't use that. So anyway, it kept telling me where to go and I kept ignoring it. So I ended up at Beaconsfield services at IONITY. Now, the reason it was desperate for me not to use this charger is because there was a queue and one of the units was out of action. So I think they've got 6 chargers there. And yeah, there was really just 5 available, but they weren't available because people were using them. So I ended up queuing. But it's my own damn fault because I wasn't listening to the car. I was just ignoring it. So I ended up queuing, I think, for about 15 minutes, which is not much fun. If I was in a rush, then that wouldn't have been ideal, would it? Now, Beaconsfield, it seems that that's quite a busy place. And a little birdie has told me that IONITY are desperate to put in more chargers, but they've got grid constraints there, and I don't think they can for another few years. Or they might be able to put in some chargers, but they won't be very fast ones. Anyway, you could argue that it doesn't matter whether a charger is fast, you just want to get a charge. Now, I was in the Ioniq 6, which charges incredibly quickly. It's only 18 minutes to 80%. So I did want to charge quickly, and that's kind of why I was hoping to go to IONITY. When I started charging, I was getting 200 kilowatts, which is really good. But then that went down to something like 80 kilowatts, which is rubbish. And I think it's just there's an issue with that site with the grid connection. So one charger broken, and a queue, and I didn't get full speed. So that was a bit of a fail, wasn't it? But still, I was charging, so it's fine and everything. And the car, to its credit, did tell me to go anywhere else, and I just ignored it. So after that, 27th of May, we had the Skoda Elrock. That's a lovely car, the Elrock. My wife and I were doing a little video about it, our little review, and we just went to IONITY at Lewes.
Can I see what they look like in this camera?
absolutely fine, nothing to complain or talk about particularly. It was no problem at all. And again, we used the Electroverse card as I used really on all of these other than the Teslas. And yeah, that was fine. One of the cool things about this Skoda, and the other Volkswagen cars do it as well, is that they tell you what charge speed you're likely to get before you even get to the charger. Most EVs don't do that, which drives me a bit crazy. They could all tell you, but they don't. Anyway, that will work fine. Next up, we've got the BMW iX. That was a lovely, lovely car to drive. That really surprised me how much I liked that. Given that it's a massive hulking SUV, it's yeah, lovely. Anyway, so 29th of June, I decided to stop on the way back from Dorset to see my folks. We stopped at the Winchester EV Hub. That's an Instavolt place. And they've got loads of chargers there. It's a brand new installation, and that's just why I wanted to go there. And they've also got a Starbucks. So we went into Starbucks, got something to eat. Now, every day is a learning experience making YouTube videos, and this was no different because I had a lot of people tell me I shouldn't support Starbucks in the comments of that video. And that's because Starbucks don't pay any tax in the UK. No tax at all. Massive company like Starbucks. So, yeah, that's not ideal, is it? But anyway, so we went into Starbucks and gave them some pure profit, and then came back and the car was charged and we went on our way. But yeah, it was a really cool installation. It was lovely, that. Why is there someone charging over there on the HGV section? Next up, on the 1st of July, I still had the BMW iX, and my friend Jonathan Porterfield had decided to meet up with him again. He was in Leicester, so I drove up to see him, and we stopped and we did a little charging test between his new Tesla Model Y and the BMW iX, and we also did a little fun game of Top Trumps where we kind of compared the specs for each car. Again, I got a few comments about this. Why are you comparing the specs of a Tesla Model Y and a BMW iX? They're not comparable EVs. I got comments like that. Well, yeah, it was just a bit of fun. If you're looking for a really big, comfortable family EV and you want an SUV, then, you know, I think it's fairly valid to compare the iX and the Model Y. This was at a Sainsbury's supermarket. Smart Charge is the name of their charging network. And I actually did an interview with Smart Charge, so have a look at that, because that's quite interesting, talking about many things, including the cost of charging. Hats off to Sainsbury's. They've really gone and done it in a good way, this charging network, Smart Charge. Yeah, I'm really impressed with them. Tesco haven't done anything. I mean, they did something with PodPoint a while ago, but that's not anywhere in the same level as this. So anyway, Smart Charge, really good. 3rd of October, I was driving the e-Niro and I stopped at Sainsbury's Smart Charge, actually, and just charged there for a bit in the rain. Nothing to report there. And then on the way back the next day, I stopped at good old Cobham services in the e-Niro, and absolutely fine, no problem at all. Been here for 30 minutes. That's how long it takes to get in, eat something, and then get back here. The only thing that's a little bit annoying is that when I came back, it was a really windy day, and if you have the Electroverse card and app, sometimes you'll get something called plunge pricing, where if it's particularly windy, then obviously they've got lots of wind power they want to get rid of in the grid, and you get a pretty big discount for charging at those windy times. But I just missed that by, I don't know, half an hour or something like that. So get yourself the Electroverse card and app if you don't have it already. It's really good. There's £5 off your first charge if you use my referral link below. Finally, zoomed through this, haven't I? Finally, on the 18th of December, I stopped at IONITY at Cobham again, this time in the BMW i3. I'm going to go in and get something to eat. So Cobham, this is the country's busiest motorway services, I think. And there are actually loads of IONITY stations here, and I forget how many. I want to say 27, but I might be wrong. But what's great is that they're also building loads and loads of Gridserve chargers over there as well, which is really good. I'm never going to use them because Gridserve aren't on Electroverse, and I just use Electroverse all the time. And also Gridserve are much more expensive than IONITY. Anyway, just going to get something quick to eat, and then we'll see how much the car has charged by the time I get back. You know, I love Pret, but how the hell is that £8.50? Yeah, nothing to report there, other than the BMW i3, it seems, is terrible at telling you the range. So it told me that I'd added 100 miles in the 26 minutes it took me to have something to eat. We'll see how accurate this is. If it's 40 miles, then we should get home with 135 miles. But then the moment I started driving on the motorway, the range started dropping quite significantly. So don't trust the range meter in the BMW i3. That's what I found out. Pretty much every other EV I drive these days is pretty good at telling you the estimated range. But the i3, brilliant car, but the i3 is pretty old and old technology and whatever, and it's just not very good in that respect. So yeah, don't trust it. So that's it. So just 11 rapid chargers. Not very many, is it? As I said, I don't have to charge EVs very often. I have to make an actual effort usually to charge somewhere. And in fact, I've got so many EVs coming next year, press cars, that I should maybe make more of an effort to try and charge elsewhere and to test that out. But then it makes these videos longer, so maybe I won't. How were the chargers then overall? Pretty good. I think generally they were all pretty good, apart from that IONITY Beaconsfield one. As I said, broken charger, and I had to queue a long time, and the charge speed wasn't even very good when it did start going. So that was a bit of a fail. But other than that, it's been pretty good, really. Using the Electroverse card helps, because it is more reliable than using a bank card. And generally, I just find that every year this all gets quite easy. Now, you may be wondering why I don't use Gridserve. Gridserve, if you don't know, are the company that operate the electric highway. They're all the motorway services. A lot of the motorway services, by the way, you do get, Tesla are a few, IONITY are a few, Apple Green are a few, and all this sort of stuff. But the majority tend to be Gridserve Electric Highway. Now, I don't charge there because they don't support Electroverse. Why don't you support Electroverse, Gridserve? Why? Because I would use you all the time if you supported Electroverse, but you don't. So, anyway, that's why I don't go there. Also, they're really expensive. They're 82 pence to 89 pence per kilowatt hour. So, sod that. I kind of avoid them like the plague. Now, talking of costs, it's a bit unfair. I don't want to pick on Gridserve. It's not like they're the most expensive. They're among the most expensive, but they're not the most expensive. I get a lot of comments from people saying that the charging networks operate like some sort of cartel, and they're fixing the pricing and it's all ridiculously expensive. And that's just not the case. They've got enormous costs, ridiculous the amount. In fact, Charge UK is a group of charging networks, and they produced a report saying where all the money goes. It's pretty depressing reading, really, just to see how much their costs are. And you can see why we don't have cheap charging here. Because if you go to France, charging is so cheap over there. And it's because their energy market is not screwed up like ours is. We've got some governments in the past have made some pretty bad decisions, and we've got the knock-on effect of that now. The average cost of charging in the UK is 74 pence per kilowatt hour. And if you look at the Charge UK report, it tells you where all of that money goes. So you've got VAT for a start, which is 15% higher than it is on home charging. So we have to pay 20% VAT on public charging, where it's only 5% on home electricity. Then you've got wholesale electricity costs. That's 30% of the pie. That's gone up 66% on pre-energy crisis levels, because before the energy crisis, charging in the UK was relatively inexpensive. And then other energy costs have gone up 240% since 2021 to 22, a 462% increase in standing charges. You may know that we have to pay standing charges. Every home in the UK has to pay a standing charge. Now, the charging networks, they have to pay a capacity charge, and that's like a standing charge with bells on. That's the amount of money that they have to spend for the power that they may want to use in the future. So let's say we all want these lovely big hubs, don't we? They have to pay a charge, a capacity charge, for the amount of power that site will use in the future, whether they're using it or not. So that's mad, isn't it? Makes me wonder, I was reading this, it makes me wonder who the hell would be a charging network? Because there's no money in it at all. There's other costs like support costs. So obviously they've got to have 24/7 support. So if something goes wrong, they can be on the other end of the phone. And also there's the maintenance cost as well when equipment gets broken. There's the cost of replacing the cables when absolute idiots come along and cut the cables for the copper content. Idiots that do that, and that happens a lot. So then you've got security costs and all that on top. So charging networks have to spend a lot of money. A lot of people in comments obviously say, well, yeah, but Tesla are cheaper. And yeah, Tesla generally are cheaper, but that's in part because they sell Teslas, and obviously the sale of the cars subsidizes the cost of the charging to a certain degree. Anyway, what a lot of these charging networks are now doing is selling memberships or subscription services, because that enables them to bring the cost of charging down a little bit if you spend a monthly amount. So that's what I did with IONITY when we drove down to Italy, and Tesla do it, and many others. A lot of you wonder why I don't use Tesla more. It's partly because they're not on Electroverse, and I've got this credit that I use with Electroverse, but also they're not always in the most convenient places. IONITY at Cobham is in an extremely convenient place for me because it's at the services and there's loads of facilities there. And also, I just don't like charging at Tesla superchargers in my Kia e-Niro because of the way that the cables are so short on the old superchargers that they don't really fit the Niro very well without going at a slight angle sometimes and going right up to the bump stop and all that. And it's more hassle than I want. So that's why. But Tesla are a really good option for cheaper charging generally. Is the infrastructure improving? There are 17,829 rapid chargers in the UK. Most of those are over 150 kilowatts, so that's called an ultra rapid charger. And 2,738 of these ultra rapid chargers were added just in 2025. So that's definitely much better. In fact, just up the road from me, Instavolt have put some chargers, I think there are 4 of them, I think 450 kilowatt, I think, in an M&S food car park, which is fantastic. So I didn't have that last year when we moved in. That wasn't available. And in fact, I probably would have used that quite a lot when I wasn't charging at home. So that's great to see. So just in my tiny little zone, I've noticed that charging is better than it was. But I would like to know what it's like in your locality, because I'm pretty lucky down in the southeast. We do have quite a few chargers per person here, and London is obviously amazing. West Midlands is good, but other than that, it can be a bit spotty depending on where you are in the UK. Northern Ireland is particularly awful, unfortunately, and that really needs to improve. So it's £193.18 spent for about 1,156 miles added. So it's about 17 pence per mile. So could it be cheaper? Yes, if I use Tesla or a subscription with IONITY or something like that. We did 8,471 miles in the year. 8,026 of those were just charging at home, which cost £562.82 in home electricity. There was £74.29 of public charging, which is a total of £637.11, 8 pence per mile. Again, very rough calculation in terms of the mileage there. 8 pence per mile. That's still really cheap to run, isn't it? So that's the benefit, obviously, from being able to charge at home and then doing occasional public charging. But that is how it is for most people. So having an EV for us is still an absolute no-brainer. It's so cheap. And especially if you get a second-hand EV, because I know that's the other thing that people say is that, well, yeah, EVs depreciate. All new cars depreciate, not just EVs. But yeah, if you get a second-hand EV and you can charge at home, then it's so cheap. So that's 2025. It gets easier every year, I think, but I would love to know how it's been for you. Whatever EV you've got, wherever you are in the world, do you find that public charging is improving or getting worse? Tell me about the costs. Is that getting better or worse for you? But do get yourself Electroverse if you haven't already, and do consider getting a subscription with Tesla or IONITY or one of the others if you do need to use public charging a lot, because it does work out much cheaper if you do that. So that's it, I think. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please press the subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified of other videos, and I'll be back very soon. Bye for now.